Maybe want to kill your you as well.
Because everything plays off of each other. So what we've created here is a diagram to kind of show the structure of how things need to be built. And it starts at the very bottom with products. So when we install Salesforce CPQ, the first thing we're going to need to do is configure our products and then move up to pricing, bundling, discounting, sales flow, approvals. So as you can see here, you're kind of hearing these concepts over again, the main covenants of what a CPQ tool is, right? We're seeing approvals, we're seeing products, we're seeing pricing, document generation, the ability to order things, right? So really this slide is supposed to represent that there are things that build off of each other. And if you don't do things in this order, what you're going to have is kind of a half-built system that crashes all the time. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So we saw this yesterday, and this is the use case that we are going to be building off of, right? So whenever we have questions about what needs to be built again, we can always reference back to this slide. I know that you guys don't have access to this, or do they have access?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so you guys have access to this slide. So we're building things and we give you tasks to do on your own. Before you ask us questions on how you should do it, refer back to this and look at some of the language and see if it maybe explains how you should do it, okay? So the first thing what we need to do is go into our Salesforce environment and make a couple of changes at the settings level. So we've installed the package, and now the first thing we want to do is go make some changes to our page layout. So follow along with me as I go ahead and make changes to my page layouts in my org, okay?
And everybody's logged into their dev org, is that correct?
Okay. All right, so we're here at the home page, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to setup, and I'm going to do this not using the shortcuts with the plugin. I'm going to do this kind of more traditional way so that you see kind of how you would traditionally run through the back end of the system. So as you can see here, the first thing what we needed to do is update the layouts for our product object, our account object, our opportunity, order, contract, and asset, right? So we're going to change what fields are displayed to a user for these specific objects when we go into them, okay? So the first one we're going to do is the product. So I'm going to go here on the left side. Once I've hit setup, I get this screen, and I'm going to scroll down here until I see customize, and I'm going to scroll down to my product. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my page layouts. So customize product page layout. So here at my page layout, I'm shown two records. This is your standard product layout that comes with Sales Cloud, and this is the newly introduced CPQ product layout. So what I'm going to do is click on this button, which is Page Layout Assignments. And as you can see here, what I'm shown is all of the different profiles and the page layout that's being assigned. So in order for me to show all of the new fields that are introduced from Salesforce CPQ, we're going to make the default page layout our CPQ page layout. So I'm going to hit Edit Assignment. And the easiest way to do this is if you click on the top one, and then you hold.
Actually, just click the header. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. There's an even easier way than I was going to show you. Just click on the header, and then select the page layout you want it to be. And it's the CPQ product layout. And then hit Save. And as you can see here, all of your page layouts have changed, okay? Now that we've done this, we're going to move and do this for the account object. So the account object can be found in the same area under Create. Sorry, Customize. And we go to Accounts. And again, we go to Page Layouts. So Customize, Account, Page Layouts. As you can see here on the account, you have a few more page layouts that come out of the box. But again, we're focusing here on the CPQ account page layout that we want to add. So I'm going to again go to Page Layout Assignments. I'm going to click on the header. Oh, I'm going to hit Edit Assignment first. I'm going to click on the header, and I'm going to change everything to CPQ account layout. Now, again, I want to reiterate, this is really something you're going to do in your own org when you're setting up Salesforce CPQ. If you're doing this for a customer and you are the implementation consultant, so this would usually be work that an implementation consultant would do, you want to make sure you're talking to the client and understanding what page layouts they have today and how you want to incorporate the new fields into perhaps existing page layouts that they already have, instead of just using the generic page layout that it comes with the package that we installed. So we've done the product and we've done the account. The next thing we're going to move into is the opportunity and change the opportunity page layout. So again, we're going to go back to our left side and we're going to go under customize and we're going to find our opportunities. And then under opportunity, you find page layouts again.
It took my locale and it's in Spanish.
Does everyone have that? Is everyone's in Spanish?
You can change it.
Yeah,
change
yeah,
it,
you can
yeah.
change it, but by default,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I open up in a new browser and it's in Spanish.
So it's,
It's not comfortable.
yeah, when you're setting up a new org and it asks what country you're in, that's where it will default to the local
Okay, yeah,
based on the country.
And so if you need to change that, maybe we can go through that really quick on just the place to change that after this. Zeke, do you think? Just changing the locale in the company?
Yeah.
Just in case you guys need to know that in the future. But generally that will change it for everybody. So you just want to be careful when doing that.
oh, okay.
So page layout assignments, and again, we're wash, rinse, and repeat, which is basically just do the same thing over again. And we're going to choose the CPQ opportunity layout and hit save here.
Formato de páginas.
Formato de página. Page layout is formato de página?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least here it's translated like that.
All right, so the next one we're going to assign a page layout to is the contract. Or did I say order? I forgot to say order. Order. So again, we're going to go to customize. And we're going to find the order and go to page layouts. And we're going to do the same thing here with assigning the right page layout. So again, edit assignment. Select all. Select the page layout you'd like, and hit save.
I accidentally. I want to change the
Is everyone having problems with this?
language.
Yeah, and we'll go over that after.
I wonder what order will be in Spanish.
I don't know.
Orden no es. Orden en español también.
Order pedido.
Ah, pedido.
Oh,
Pedido, ¿eh?
Pedido solo.
Sí,
Okay.
pedido.
Oh, man.
Maybe do we just want to change the language now, potentially?
For us?
Well,
No.
like just show where to change it.
I changed it yesterday in another org, but I don't.
Yeah, so I just didn't know, just because.
Yeah, so for everyone who's in the Argentina locale, if you want to follow along, I'm going to go ahead and show you where you would make those changes to move it to English and the regionality of US, so that it looks more similar to what we're doing. So the first thing you would do here is we can define this at the company level and also define it at the individual user level. So the first thing we're going to do is define it at the company level. Is the language settings?
It's under company.
Company information, yeah. And then it'll be locale,
Perfil de la compañía.
default locale.
Información de la compañía. Okay.
And language right below that.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because this is going to affect numbers as well.
yeah,
So, US.
Yeah, so locale will impact numbers, dates, and then
Many.
language.
From here, does it affect like base currency? Or so it's an average USD?
No, it says when you put modified as currency by the holder, everybody.
Oh, really?
It's in Argentina's pesos. For me, below that one, there.
There's a lot of these companies have multiple languages, countries that they're operating in.
So I'm going to put the USD.
User profile is only for your user, and you change it from here, the company information is for everyone.
It's the default for new users unless they go change it.
So whenever everyone's, has this and they're in English and in USD and their locale, if you guys just want to let us know, so once we get everybody on the same page, we'll move forward from there.
Okay. Again, if you have questions, raise your hand, I can come help you.
I told him United States.
one thing that I do like is.
Okay, so
You switch currency.
Oh, really?
No, I think so.
It's really nice.
Well, it doesn't do it for JPY.
I believe it does.
So like it doesn't include, so like Japanese. So when I do scoping for JPY, I compare to display on the generator. The document generator. That's where for package level setting. Within the pages, I don't know, maybe visually, like Salesforce renders it on your engine itself directly, the document generator picks up the actual data.
it's one of them. They don't have the order.
Yeah.
Oh, did you do it in a?
No.
Oh, okay. It's like, oh my gosh.
Do you want to log out or to change it?
Well, first we're on our product, yeah, we're back on order.
See, do I need to log out and log back in or
I
change
think
it for my
it's just a
user?
refresh on your browser.
So you
No,
can find
that,
it.
that didn't work.
You have to install from a link.
Austin was the one who changed
Link
this,
that we gave you.
so I'm not sure if you have to log in and out.
You're right.
Do you have to log in and out to get the changes to reflect, or?
I think, well, there's a setting on your user that overrides
Which order
this.
did you install it in?
Yeah.
This is the company default, but then you have your user default.
Yeah, no,
My
I
profile,
have
let's see.
another.
So you might have to change in both cases.
Try it.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, and
Right, let's put.
I thought that
Shows up on the list.
Okay.
I could use that, but no.
Okay.
My configuration.
Austin said me that it's not the same.
You can, it just will stop after a while.
Yeah.
We're in the right, correct, we're in the
Yeah.
dashboard, right?
In fact, I
Here
can-
are the user.
Personal.
And it showed up for other options.
You have to go to my configuration, then go to personal, and it says language and time zone.
And this one right here, the locale settings for your user.
But it's within the user. you
Within the
also have
user,
different
right.
language preferences.
So in configuration at the very top, on the user.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, that's basically the same.
Yeah, because you have to set up the company.
Yeah, I just moved over.
I'm choosing it through other way, but I think it's going to modify the same options.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
It's from the very top where you're logged in configuration. Demo user from there. I went to my settings, then I went to display and layout, no, personal and language. And time zone.
Okay.
Has everybody that would like to switch their language, got their language switched over? You don't necessarily have to change the language, it's just, it may be a little bit easier to follow along when Zeke is referring to order. and opportunities.
Perfect.
Austin, are you still working on the language stuff?
No, we're not on language stuff. For some reason, we don't have to order
Page layout.
CPU page layout. It's like not there. That's really odd.
So let's go back to customize, since we're having issues with a group in the order.
So go back one page. Go back one page. That's the order. Yeah, there's no. It should look like this.
So you don't see this?
Right, click edit.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's not.
Are you hitting customize or are you
No, it
hitting
just doesn't
create?
show up in the list. Like we're on the
Yeah.
exact same page on both computers, and mine shows the managed package layout. I've never seen that.
Are you, is there a custom order object that gets introduced in the package and it's legacy?
No.
So you're on customize, not create?
Yeah, no, we're on the right object.
Okay.
What about the other objects?
I don't think there's a quick edit on there.
Does everybody else have the order CPQ layout?
This,
Yeah.
Don't scroll down.
Okay.
All right.
Did you want to change your
Let's
language?
scroll to the top.
Oh, okay.
So you can drag yours to make it look like this.
We can do that afterwards. Too.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
we're more-
I'm gonna try getting to that.
Order, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So.
okay, it could have something to do with the versioning of the install package too.
But everybody has the exact same version.
Sí.
Well, maybe, but it's something to check, right?
All right.
But we all install from the exact same version.
I can send you a screenshot of what the page looks like.
Everybody in the room.
And then you can see the details. But we're not gonna get to
More
it
than
today.
the CPQ package stand there.
Yeah.
No.
So-
Apply for it.
So this new thing that we saw in here, the Salesforce connected apps, this is from the plugins that we installed yesterday. The browser plugins. So that's how it interacts with Salesforce.
Okay, but you have some extra custom fields?
In this org, no. In the demo that I had shown you, that was a different org. And yes, there were some custom fields there.
Because what is saying is, I just watch six rows. And in your example, it's
56.
you have more custom field than it.
These
Or-
objects?
When you customize
The layout? Yeah, so it's more rows within, so there's more profiles set up.
Yeah, that is odd.
Well, let's go ahead and we'll continue to go through this. For the biggest one is setting the system admin profile, just because that's what we technically all are within our own org. But to Zeke's point, generally when you're on a project, you will probably not be changing these layouts. This is more just to make sure that within our org, we're able to see the correct custom fields that were added via the managed package. So.
Yeah, so if you don't have the order page layout, that's okay, we'll move forward. Let's move over to the contract object and let's make sure we change the page layout of the contract object. So again, I'm under my settings, I'm going under build, customize, and then I have my contract. And then I have my page layouts.
New HTML.
Then I hit my page layout assignment. And then Pablo, I think here what you're saying is I have more of
Yes,
these
I-
profiles than you do? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be the case. But not too big of a deal because we're all working under a system admin profile. Than anything.
Oh, it's probably because they're using the Trailhead org, so that might be configured slightly differently than a regular development.
It should be fine.
It would, yeah, definitely be okay.
Anyone have any issues with the CPQ contract page layout? This is one that we will be using a little bit more, so just want to make sure that everyone's updated here. All right, and then last but not least, I think we got the asset. So again, the last page layout we're going to add is for our assets. So again, customize, find your assets. And then page layouts.
Yeah, it's this one.
And actually, there's no asset page layout that's created from the package, so we might have to just add some fields to the page layout that we have here. So if we wanted to, we could go into edit, and there are some fields we can add, but let's just ignore this because it's not too big of a deal. All right, so the last thing we need to do here, according to the PowerPoint that we have set up here, is we need to do a couple of small little configurations to our order object. And that is, we need to enable reduction orders as well as enable negative quantities in our orders. So I'm not sure if this has been enabled in your order, if it was something maybe that was causing your error, the one that you were here.
No, I changed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I changed it. So I am installing CPQ right now.
So the way we do this here is it's very similar. We're under build, customize, and we're going to go to the order again. And then under order at the very bottom, there's a tab called order settings. And make sure all three of these checkboxes are checked. I'm not sure if yours is pre-checked or not under enable orders, but make sure all three of these are checked to true. Which is enable reduction orders and enable negative quantities. I just wasn't sure if under reductions or anything like that. So that's
Sorry, the three checks?
yeah, all of them check true.
Sorry, in the videos for the asset layout, why don't we have the option to change to CPQ?
I think it was more of a decision made by Salesforce CPQ to decide to have a page layout assigned to the asset or not. I think because CPQ is so based on subscriptions, they probably just said we only have maybe 5 extra fields that we added here. The users can just add it on their own. Versus the other objects where there are a lot more fields that are added, where it becomes beneficial to have your own page layout.
There you go. Select them all. And then
So anybody want to try to answer the question, why did we not set a page layout for our quote or our subscriptions? And we talked about those 2 objects. Anyone have any guesses?
There were different options. There were already SBQQ options. I mean, there are 2 subscriptions, the standard one and the one that we installed. So it's likely that it has the default layout already.
Yeah, I think you guys are all hitting it. Those objects, they're not standard objects. They're objects introduced from the managed package. And those objects already have a page layout that was created that's not different from what we want. So that's why we're not making those changes, and we're making changes to the standard objects that come with Sales Cloud. So again, now you're maybe starting to separate in your head the custom objects versus the standard objects, right? They all work with each other, but there are differences between them. Okay, so if everyone feels caught up, is anyone still behind where they might need Austin to help them get to this point? If not, we're going to move ahead. And we're going to talk a little bit about products. So we're going to jump into the product page layout, and we're going to start to begin to build products. But first of all, I want everyone to know the major concepts around products that are different. The product object is the object that has the most custom fields added to it out of all of the standard objects that get manipulated by the CPQ package. So as you can see here, there are 69 custom fields that are introduced to this object that control how a product behaves when it's on a quote, when it's a subscription versus when it's an asset, and how it behaves on an order and how it needs to be invoiced if we get into billing. But that's moving into kind of some more billing topics than CPQ. But just note that there's a ton of configuration that you can do on the product object and the record specifically to the product you're working on that define how it works within the system. And there's a lot of configuration that happens here. A lot of that configuration is mainly to separate the two main types of products that you're going to have. And those are assets versus subscription, or one-time purchases versus subscriptions, right? So controlling, does my quote line, when I contract it, does my quote line turn into an asset or does it turn into a subscription? So as you notice, when I did the demo, some of my products turned into an asset and some of them turned into a subscription. And that was based off of the settings that I put within the product. The other ones is how the product behaves when you're performing an amendment. And then think about an amendment as a change to an active contract in the middle of the contract. For instance, if somebody signed a 2-year contract, but after 1 year they call in and they want to make changes to what they have. Maybe increase the number of licenses to the software they purchased, or decrease the number of licenses, or perhaps add on some more products that they never purchased. And then the renewal behavior, right? How do we want pricing to behave under renewals? I think Andrea? Andrea? Okay. Andrea brought up a really good point around, and here in Argentina, currency fluctuation is a really big thing. In the United States, it's not something we deal with as often, right? So understanding how your product's going to be priced on renewal, especially when there's a lot of currency fluctuation, is probably a pretty big thing. So just note that the product is where we're going to be setting a lot of those things. So right now, let's go ahead and go back to Salesforce, and let's have everyone open up a brand new product. So we're going to go to our products list, and we're going to create a new product, and we'll start seeing some things. I wanted to, actually, before we do that, let's go over some pricing as well. So along with having products defined as if it's going to turn into an asset or if it's going to turn into a subscription, how are we going to control what happens on amendments and renewal, as well as how is this product going to be priced? So we talked about how products were priced as a subscription, and it's being pulled off of a list price, and we'll get into that detail here. But then there's also things that we talked about around the quantity of the product, and perhaps the changing of a price based off of the quantity that's being ordered. And that can be defined as a per unit change, or if you're selling chunks of licenses and the product needs to be based off of the block that you fall into. Another one is term-based pricing. So if pricing needs to change based off of the length of the term that you're signing, and this is different than what I had called out in the demo that I had shown, where pricing is based off of the term, where if you have a 1-year product and you have a 2-year contract, your price is just doubled. Well, also you can apply a systematic discount to your product to change the top level price based off of the term that the customer signs. For instance, if a customer wants to just purchase month to month, the price might just be $9.99 a month. But if they decide to say, all right, I want to purchase this product, but I want to commit for 2 years, perhaps maybe the price now is $8.99, and that's the top level price that you start with. So that's where you would see term-based pricing. We talked a little bit about percentage of total, right? How we can define a percentage of total product, and we'll show you how we did that. And then the last one is custom. So if none of these kind of pre-built functionalities for how pricing works is really how the business prices their product, there's this concept called price rules that allow you to do price overrides on anything based off of certain logic that you want to write. We're going to have you guys build some price rules, and we'll relate to how you can change pricing. But just know that the custom pricing is kind of the override. If none of these pre-built things work, you have the flexibility to kind of just do this generic or custom pricing if you like. All right, so the first exercise we're going to do is we're going to start to build some of these products. So if we go back to the Driver Deluxe use case, what we're doing here is we're going to build some of the products that the use case told us this company sells. And then afterwards, we're going to have you guys on your own build some of the products on your own without following me on the screen, okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a price book, because the price book is going to define where the pricing for our product sits within, okay? So let's go back into Salesforce. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go to this plus arrow here. And here you can find your price book. So again, I went to the plus arrow here on the very right side of the screen. And it showed me more objects than what was shown up here at my tabs. And price book. And as you can see here, there are no price books. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a price book that represents the products that we are going to be adding. So here, let's go ahead and create a new one. And let's just call it Driver Deluxe. And let's maybe add a region to it, for instance. Let's leave the region out since we're not doing that. And then let's also make it active. And that's all we need to do at this point in time. The next thing I'm going to do now is move over to my products. And I think everyone remembers that we have some products already created in our system. And these products are associated to our standard price book. So the reason why we just created a new price book is because we don't want to have to manipulate these products that exist today. We want to only work in a price book that has the products that we are creating. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new product. And I'm going to stop here and make sure everyone's at this screen before we begin to move forward.
This new product is for the price book created for the new price book.
It will be, yeah, but we don't link the product to the price book until we add a price to this product.
Okay.
So right now, this product is just going to be sitting on its own.
You can add this product for to other private also, yeah.
So the first product that we are going to build here is we're going to build a 10-inch touchscreen monitor. So notice a couple of nuances that are being told to us here, right? When we're thinking here, when I see a 10-inch monitor, right, this is a piece of hardware. And I know that hardware can either be sold as a one-time product or rented, right, and then returned at the end of its life. In this case, it's telling me that this is a $100 one-time fee per monitor, right? So it's being very explicit. So think about this as a requirement you might see from a customer, right? And this is being explicit that says this is not a subscription product. This is a product that's sold one time, and it's $100 per unit, all right? So we're going to go ahead and now begin to configure this product for Salesforce CPQ. So I'm going to just take this, I'm going to go into Salesforce, and I'm going to name this 10-inch touchscreen monitor. Product family, this is a field that comes out of the Salesforce or Sales Cloud package, and it's a very common field that gets used to define the types of products that you have. But in this case, since we don't have anything in our pick list value, we're just going to leave this at none. But know that product family is usually a field that gets used to define the products and filter products out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this an active product, and make sure that you always mark your products as active if you want them to show up for product selection. So if you're going into your configurator and you're not seeing your product, one of the main things that you usually see as an error is the product was never activated. There are a lot of other fields, again, 69 fields that are introduced from the Salesforce CPQ package. We're not going to necessarily talk about every single one because it's going to take up the whole day, but let's just concentrate on the ones that are specific to the configuration that we want to build. So, hidden, sort order, component, optional. These are things that define how the products show up in regards to, does the product actually come up to the opportunity? Does the product show up in your product selection, or does it get automatically added? So for instance, I'm actually going to, I will at some point in time make this product a component, because I'm going to label this product as a component of a bundle. So I never want someone to be able to select this product on its own. The block pricing field, if we were to be defining block pricing, which we will do a little bit later, we can define where the block pricing actually grabs its value from. Asset amendment behavior. So since we are creating what we consider an asset, so we said one-time product. So in our heads, we're assuming we're creating an asset and not a subscription. I hope that's kind of starting to sink in with everyone, the differences between the two. If you are going to perform an amendment, a change to an asset, right? How do you allow changes to an asset, right? So the customer maybe has to return a piece of hardware to you before you can give them a refund, right? Or you just don't allow refunds on something that they already purchased, right? So the way assets can be amended or changed in the middle of a contract is very different than the way subscriptions can be changed in the middle of a contract. So know that there is some behavior that you can have. The default behavior says that you cannot decrease the quantity of assets unless you change this to allow refunds, okay? But we're gonna leave this as none for right now. Asset conversion. This is, right now, we had a single quote line. When we created a quote in my example, we had a single quote line, and that single quote line turned into a single asset. But sometimes customers might want the ability to have a quote line that maybe has a quantity of 2. When that gets converted into an asset, they want to have 2 assets that represent that instead of 1. So this is telling you you can have your asset conversion be 1 per quote line or 1 per unit on an individual quote line. The more common use case here is we see a 1 per quote line, but know that the system provides the flexibility here. Quantity editable, these are things that interact with the Visualforce page that you see in your quote line editor. And if it's, can the user change the quantity of this product or not? What we're going to say is that the quantity is editable, and then we're going to have a default quantity of 1. I'm going to scroll down here. These are also, fields that you can define. I'm going to add a product description. This is a inch monitor sold as a one-time product. All right, so the fields that we just went over were a little bit more just informational, and they didn't really control how the product is priced itself. So the first thing we'll see here is our Salesforce CPQ configuration. And this is where you get into some of the real controlling fields on how a product behaves. So the first one here is you're going to see your configuration type. And what you'll see here is you'll see required, allowed, disabled, configuration event, option layout. So the Salesforce CPQ configuration section is very specific to how a bundle will be created. So right now we're going to skip this section because we're not creating our bundle and we're just creating an individual product. But when we go into creating our bundle, you'll see how this affects things. So scrolling down, we have our pricing section. The first thing that you'll see here is your pricing method. So we talked about a lot of different types of pricing that you can choose. And here you'll see you'll have list, cost, block, or percent of total. So here's where you're defining how do I actually get my top price for this specific product. And then what we call our top price is the list price. And we'll talk about how your list price gets to your net price once we get to the quote line editor and talk a little bit about that. But this product, right, remember it goes back, it's a $100 per unit sold as a one-time fee. So we're going to label this as just list price, and we're going to want to just pull the standard price that we defined for this product.
Not go into the actual how you get to that during the discounting section.
At this point in time, pricing method editable, we're not going to make it editable so a user can change this in the middle of a quote. We can mark this product as non-discountable. So you remember I was allowed to add a 50% discount. On a product by product basis, you can check this to true, and it just does not allow a user to click into that additional discount field and actually add a discount. So it's ways of manipulating how users interact with the quote lines that they see. Compounding discount, this is one we don't usually use too often, but it deals with discounts that are kind of aggregated on top of each other. Include in percent of total, we're going to skip that for right now. Discount schedules. So discount schedules is a concept around not necessarily discounting. I like to actually call it systematic discounts to get to a list price or a top level price. So there's two different types of discount schedules we can assign to a product. They can be term-based or they can be quantity-based. So we talked about if a customer purchases 100 licenses, maybe they get a cheaper price than if they purchased one license. If they signed up for 5 years versus signing up for 1 year, they maybe get a different price. The things that control how that pricing is calculated are these concepts called, or is this object called discount schedule. And we will create a discount schedule here in a little bit for some of our subscription products, but we're going to leave these blank for right now. Percent of total constraint, we're going to leave this alone. We're going to leave cost editable alone. We're going to leave price editable alone. And usually we don't want to check this box to true, because this box really allows a sales representative to change the price of any product on their quote. So this is almost providing like free reign for your sales representatives to change the price of a product. And that's usually against best practice. Non-partner discountable, this is a field that allows you to kind of control if a partner discount can be added to a product. So I'm actually going to check this checkbox to true, and it's going to play into the future of how we write a price rule. You cool with that?
Yeah,
we're gonna
go. No, we're gonna go without it.
Oh, so it's not gonna.
It's not gonna do anything.
All right, let's leave this one blank then. Let's not add it. Batch quantity, exclude from percent of total, term discount level, and discount category. These are all some more kind of advanced fields that usually you are going to be using for specific use cases. We're going to leave them blank for right now. The subscription section, because this is a one-time product, we're not going to mess with this section at all. We'll get into that when we build out a couple of our subscription products. And then upgrades, this section deals more with an asset upgrade. So if you think about what an asset upgrade means, perhaps a customer purchased a level of support, and maybe that level of support was a bronze level of supporter. But maybe they've had issues after the first couple of months of service and they want to change to a gold or a platinum level of support. This is a way for the system to automatically, not automatically, but to create some automation around how you can use an amendment to upgrade a customer's product to a higher level, or to downgrade a customer's product to a lower level. It's a systematic way that they've built in to be able to do this. That's a little bit better than just deleting something and then adding something new. Because usually when you are doing these types of upgrades, there's usually like a license key that's assigned to the product that you've sold. And that license key needs to continue to move forward with that contract or with those products. So if you cancel something and you add something new, it becomes very difficult to track when you have really big quotes, what you canceled and what you added and what keys need to stay with which. So that's why they developed this process that links the products together that are being upgraded or downgraded. In this case, we're just going to leave this alone. This is a little bit more advanced topics. And then renewal. This last one here is renewal product. So for instance, if you have products that you are decommissioning in your business that you're no longer selling, and when this customer is up for renewal, they need to be sold a different product or the new version of the product, right? This is a way for having the system, when it automatically creates your renewal quote, for it to not create the old product, but to create the new product that you assign here. So this is more for decommissioning of legacy products and having renewals automatically take into account the new product. All right. So I'm going to save and add a price here. So I'm not going to click save. I'm going to click save and add a price just to move a little bit quicker through the system. So as you notice here, we didn't use very much functionality from CPQ for an asset type product. That's because we were able to do, sell asset type products without the introduction of CPQ, right? Because they're very flat, they're static, and the pricing is not very complicated, right? And that's why we started with just a very basic one. So here, this is our standard price that we're going to add. And if you remember from the use case, it was $100 per unit. So I'm going to add 100 here.
What does the active checkbox mean?
The active checkbox here.
Yes.
So that just means that this price is going to be active. So this also deals with if the product is going to show up in your configurator based off of the price book. So you know you had the product that was active itself, but what if you want to control if that product is active in a certain price book instead of just the whole product being active or not active? It's another level of granularity.
And different currencies.
So basically, this step is associating the given product to the price book.
That's correct.
Uh-huh.
And this is just the standard price book.
Yeah.
And it's also, if you had multiple currencies, you would see multiple currencies listed there. So the system is automatically assuming that it's USD right now because we haven't enabled multi-currency.
So there, when you put save and add price, basically you skip the step that you save the product, then you add the product to the price book.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is that we just added it to the standard price book. We haven't added it to the driver deluxe price book, right? So right now, this product, if I were to go to my products tab, and I can filter all my products by the price books that I have here. So again, I have my standard price book, and I have my driver deluxe price book. If I were to go to my driver deluxe, I have no products under here, right? But if I go to my standard price book, we see all of our old products that we had that came in the system when we downloaded, when we installed, but then we also have the new one.
Yeah.
So in order to keep things segregated and more simple for us, that's why we created the driver deluxe price book, and we're going to now add this product to that price book. So I'm going to go back into my 10-inch touchscreen. So I'm here on the product detail page.
Mm-hmm.
Hope everyone's following along. And I'm going to scroll down. All the way to the very bottom. And I'm going to add to a price book. And then here, we'll see our driver deluxe price book. And you can select it.
And don't click on the name, click on the checkbox. If you select the name, it will take you to that price book.
Yeah. And then here, I'm not going to actually put in the list price. I'm just going to say grab the same price as I put in my standard price book, just because we're keeping it simple.
And just really quick, as another note, Zeek couldn't come in here and add it to this price book without adding a standard. Every product has to be added to a standard price book. It doesn't necessarily have to match the standard price book, but every product has to be added to the standard price book.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so we have just now completed the first build of the product that we have. So as you can see here, we've had some basic things set up, but if we scroll down to the very bottom, we now have our price book and our driver deluxe price book, and our price is set at $100. So opening back up our PowerPoint, right, we can kind of check this guy off that we've completed it. Let's go ahead now and add the extended warranty product. So again, this one now is, it's 10% of the total number of monitors under warranty. All right. So this is a percent of total product, right? And it's a percent of total of a certain type of product, right? It's not a percent of total of my whole quote. It's a percent of total of the monitors that I'm purchasing. So it has to exclude the operating system costs that I have and maybe any add-on subscriptions that I'm adding. So there's a certain way we'll go ahead and do that and link those products together. So we're on our we're on our 10-inch monitor screen. And I'm going to make one change here, and I want everyone to follow me on this change. I'm going to go into my pricing, and I'm going to go into my subscription here. And there's a field called percent of total category. And I want everyone to change this to hardware. What I'm defining now, it's similar to a product family definition, but what I'm defining is that this product itself is part of the hardware category for anything that's being calculated as a percent of total. I'm not saying this product needs to be calculated as a percent of total. I'm just defining that this product is part of the hardware category. So that when we have a percent of total product, it can look at this product and relate itself and know that I need to calculate a percent of total of anything that has the hardware category associated to it, okay? Okay, so let's go back into our product list and let's just create a new product. So I clicked on product up here and I'm going down to recent products and I'm clicking new. And again, we're calling this extended warranty. Now, when we think about extended warranty, I don't necessarily think it's too explicit here, but would you guys consider your warranty on something a subscription or an asset? Subscription? Maybe they want to renew the warranty after their period is up, right? Or maybe you don't want them to renew it, right?
Yeah,
I think that would be a question you would then subsequently need more requirements around to ask the business.
Until it could have a lifetime, like you can renew it twice and then it's over.
Yeah. So there could be only 2 renewal cycles
Yeah.
to it instead of just 1, right? That's a good point. The system actually doesn't provide a way to kind of just make a click and say, I only wanted to do 2 renewal cycles. That's something we have experienced in projects where it's something we have to build kind of a customization around. But from my experience, usually like warranties and stuff like that is something you want to add as a subscription because you want to be able to try to resell them a warranty after the warranty has expired, right? So let's go ahead and create this as a subscription product. And let's make some assumptions around what type of subscription this is for because the use case hasn't quite told us. All right. So again, we named it. We're making it the product active. Let's make sure that we don't need to fill anything out here. And I don't think there's anything that we need to fill out here. So we can scroll down. And we're going to skip our Salesforce CPQ configuration because, again, this isn't a bundle product. So we're going to ignore these fields. And we're going to move into pricing. So the first thing we want to set on our pricing method is that this is going to be a % of total product. Again, we're not going to go over all these again. The discount schedules, if it's non-discountable or not. But note that when we go down here to subscription pricing, we need to, again, set our subscription pricing to % of total. So we're setting this in 2 different spots, not just 1 spot. Here, we're going to add a subscription term. So this is the first time we're interacting with this field. And this is going to say, for the price that we're giving this extended warranty, how is this subscription going to be priced? So are we pricing this as a 1-year price, a 2-year price, or a 3-year price? In this use case, let's just make this extended warranty a 1-year extended warranty. So if they sign a 3-year contract and they've chosen this product, what we're going to do is we're going to give them an extended warranty for the life of the contract, okay? % of total base. So this is, where does the % of total calculate from? So this is going to we're going to talk a little bit about this later, but every product and every quote line that exists has this thing that we call the pricing waterfall. And it's the way it's the way of looking at how you start from your list price and how you can add discounts to get to your net price. So here, this is saying, if I'm calculating a % of total, where do I need to get my price from? Is it the list price, or is it the net price, or is it somewhere in between? Usually what we see here is it's the net price, because usually a discount might be applied to some products, and you want your % of total to be the actual percentage of the price the customer's paying, and not the percentage of the list price, which the customer is not paying. Questions around this one? So I'm going to set this to net. Here under the subscription type, you can define if this is going to be a one-time subscription. So really, the only thing that's being manipulated by this subscription is the pricing. And then on renewal, it doesn't act like a subscription. It acts like an asset. It doesn't get renewed. Or the more common use case, this is a renewable subscription, which means on your renewal, this subscription that exists will be turned into a renewal quote line for you. Here on the right side, we are defining the percentage of total. So what actual percentage do we want to define here? So we can go back to our use case, and I believe it was 10%. So we're gonna put in 10% here. Now, going back to percent of total category. Here is where we're doing the matching between the hardware that we need to calculate our percentage of total for and the product that represents that percent of total. So I'm going to change this to hardware. So now, because we've defined this product as a percentage of total product on how it's calculated, it's now going to look at any product that's on the quote that has hardware defined as its category, and it's going to use that pricing to then define what percentage of total it needs to grab. So this is where we're making the link between the monitor that we just created and the percentage of total product. So when we create the operating system subscription, we are not going to define hardware as the category because we wanted to exclude those types of products. And then percentage of total target here, this is a way of just defining this is more of a one-to-one relationship between the percentage of total and a very specific product instead of a grouping of products. So usually what you would see is you use the category or you use the actual target. More commonly, we see the category than an actual target. Upgrades, again, we're going to skip this, and then renewal product, we're going to skip this. And again, we're going to go save and add price. Anyone care to guess what we're going to put in here? Right? Why do we need to put a flat price in a product that we know is going to change price all the time?
Maybe
The base?
Yeah, it's a base. It's more of a system requirement here, right? We can't skip this step because the system requires it. So usually with percentage of total product, we'll put a $0 amount. Because we know that when you quote this product, the price is going to change.
Yeah, and what if you put, for example, $10 and the 10% is less than $10? Is it going to take $10 from here? Is it going to work as a base? Like
it will not work
have
as a
warranties.
base. It'll override it.
It will override
It'll
it.
always override it.
Just on a standard procedure is to put 0 there.
Well, and yeah. Recommended 0 just to where the user doesn't start associating a price during that product selection page, because the standard price is what will show up on that product selection page. So if you enter in a value there, then they might say, oh, this is $10, and then be confused when it's pulled onto the quote and calculate it differently.
Yeah.
All right, and then last thing here is we also have to add this to our price book. So I did a little shortcut there, everyone. So here at the very top, I went down to price book and I just clicked on here and it took me down to the bottom of the page. And I'm going to add to price book and I'm going to add it to my driver deluxe. And I'm just going to use the standard price as well. And again, this is just systematic to make sure that the product is shown when you're in the configurator trying to select products.
Okay.
All right. So we now have 2 products we've added, and let's go ahead and try to finalize the third use or the fourth use case here. So here we have our basic operating system, right? And this is a little bit more complex on how products are actually structured here. So the way this product is sold is that it's based off of the quantity that is being purchased changes the price of the product itself. So as you can see here, from 1 to 5 licenses, the individual price for the product is $100. If you're purchasing 6 to 20, sorry, I made a mistake here. This is actually should be cheaper in price.
No.
We're not doing block pricing.
Oh, you're not doing block. Oh,
This
okay.
needs to be
Per user. Okay. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute here. That's block pricing. So block, essentially the way that it works is you fall within a certain group, and based on the group that you fall in, you would get that price. And so generally with block, every tier is actually going up in price, where this will be essentially, oh, right there.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to confuse what the requirement said and how the pricing went. So sincere apologies there. There's a small mistake on how I priced things, but licenses are priced and sold as a per user per month, right? So what we're going to be doing is manipulating the pricing per month. So if the user is purchasing 0 to 5 licenses, their price is $100 per license. If they purchase between 6 and 20, it's $90 per license. And then if they purchase 21 or more, it's going to be $80 per license per month. Okay? So let's go back into Salesforce and let's create a new product. So again, we can go to product.
I'm actually glad that it's that way, because now we can see cascaded discounts.
Yeah. And percent of total, or sorry, and then new. So here, we're gonna call this basic OS. Again, we're gonna make this active. We're gonna leave some of these fields alone. We're gonna come down to Salesforce pricing, and we're gonna remove, we're not gonna do anything with configuration. And we're gonna leave list pricing as the way this is priced, because what do you think our list price is gonna be here for this product based off of the requirement? Does anyone care to take a guess what the list price is for this product?
Like a case statement, a switch, a tiered pricing.
Tiered pricing, but think about this, we're setting, if someone were to purchase 1 unit of this product, right, what is just the base price for this product? I think here it's gonna be $100, right?
Mhm.
So we're gonna be using list pricing to define this product, and we're gonna be putting in $100 as our list price.
With the discount.
Yep,
Yeah.
because we're gonna be using this
Yeah.
discount schedule thing to get us to that lower price.
Right.
All right. So right now we're gonna leave some things alone. Let's go ahead and finish making our edits, but we're gonna have to create a discount schedule, and then we're gonna come back and add the discount schedule to this product. But first, let's create this product. So we're gonna give it a list pricing. We're gonna leave some of these fields alone. We already talked a little bit about them. We're not gonna add any percent of total pieces on here. We know that this product is a subscription, right? So we probably need to make some edits on the subscription. So if we go back up to our use case, licenses are priced and sold as a per user per month rate. So what would someone guess our subscription term needs to be here? One to represent $100 per 1 month, right? So if this was a yearly product and it was $100 per year, here we would put 12 as our subscription term, but we would leave our price at $100, okay? We're not gonna do anything with percent of total base, the subscription type, we're gonna leave it as renewable. We'll leave our percent of total alone, and we'll leave some of these fields alone as well. So let's go ahead and save and add a price. We're gonna make it $100. And then again, go to our price book. We're going to add it to our Driver Deluxe price book. Again, let's use the price that we set for our standard price.
And by using the standard price, what also happens is if the standard price changes at any point in time within the system, if you have integrations or anything else, it will automatically update the price books that you have associated to use the standard price. So just keep that in mind as well.
All right, so now we actually need to create discount schedules to represent how the product needs to be discounted, systematically discounted, right? This isn't a user going in and making the discounts, it's the system adding the discount based off of what the user is selecting as far as quantity goes. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the app that I'm working within, just to make my tabs a little bit easier. So up here on the very top, I'm under my sales tab, app, but I'm actually going to want to work within my Salesforce CPQ app. When you go ahead and make those changes, what you're going to see here is a new tab has been added to the top called Discount Schedule. So we're going to go ahead and click on Discount Schedule. And we don't have any created right now, so we're going to go ahead and create a discount schedule. I'm going to name this discount schedule Basic OS, and I'm going to make sure I name this in a way that I kind of understand what it is, because discount schedules can be used for term and for volume. So I'm going to want to label this as a volume discount schedule so that we know when we're making a pick list selection or a selection on that lookup field, which one it is if you have a whole bunch of them. Volume, or range versus slab when it comes to your discount schedule type. This deals with how you want pricing to work for the actual units of your product. So, for instance, in this case, we have, what was it, $10 per month?
Was $100 per month.
$100 per month for, let's go back up to this. From 1 to 5, it's $100. From 6 to 20, it's $90. From 21 to more, it's $80. So when we're looking at the type on our discount schedule, slab versus range, sorry. The difference here is, are all of my units going to be at the single price of the tier we fall into? Or are the units that correspond to the price or the tier that they fall into going to be priced at that amount? So if I were to choose range, back up here. So if I were to choose range, what this is going to do is that whatever tier I fall into, every single unit will be priced at that tier's price. If I do slab, what's going to happen is every unit is going to fall within the price, or every unit is going to be priced within the tier that it falls into. So going back to here, if we choose to buy, let's say 100 licenses, and we have range set, what we're going to do is we're going to do 80 times the 100 licenses to get to our price. If we have slab set, the first 5 of our units are going to be calculated as 5 times 100. The next set, which is going to be our next 15 units, are going to be priced at 15 times 90. And then the remainder are going to be priced at your 20, or the 80 that you have left to get to your 100 quantity are going to be priced at that 80. So the pricing is going to be based off of the slab that it falls into. Everyone follow me with that? I know this one's a little bit confusing when it comes to how the pricing works.
I'd say most often, at least in my experiences, they use range. It's a pretty complex subject to talk to a sales rep or to communicate slab pricing to your customer. If you're saying, oh, you're buying the first 5 for 100, but then the next 6 are for 90, and then the next 80 are for 80 or something like that. It can be a little bit more complex instead of just saying, if you go up in quantity, you're receiving a larger discount.
Yeah, and if you notice, the system behaves really funny if you use slab pricing, because what the system is always trying to do is show you what is the individual price for this product. But when you use slab, you actually don't have an individual price for a product. It's a blended price. And the system has a little bit of trouble showing you a blended price. So it behaves kind of funny when you use slab. So we usually, when customers say they have a slab pricing model, we try to talk them away from it for a lot of reasons. Aggregate scope here, as you can see, this isn't a required field, but this is going to take into consideration if you have multiple products on a quote that have the same discount schedule associated to them, it's going to take into consideration the quantity of all the products, not just the individual quote line that you have in its quantity. So for instance, if this discount schedule is associated to product A and product B, it's going to look at the combined quantity of product A and product B to figure out what tier you fall into for pricing, instead of just looking at each individual quote line individually. So right here, what you're defining is what is your aggregate scope. And I showed you the quote line grouping, so you can group quote lines together. So here saying, do you want to constrain your aggregation to just your group, or do you want to constrain to your quote? Okay. I'm going to leave this as none for right now. I don't think there's a use case that we saw that forces us into one or the other. Constraining field, we don't necessarily need to do this because we don't have a constraint. Excluded price book IDs. So if you assign this discount schedule to a product, but you don't want this discount schedule to apply, for instance, if you have a price book for Latin America versus North America, and you don't want to give this discount to customers in Latin America, you can exclude a certain price book for when this discount schedule works. Account, it's similar as well, where you can define an account versus a price book where you want this to work. Cross products. So this is what I was telling you about, where we want the aggregation to occur between products. So we're not going to set this to be true, but this is where you're defining, I want my products to look at the quantity of multiple versus just an individual line. Okay, so this field here works with your aggregate scope. Cross orders. So this deals more with amendments. So if a customer decides to purchase, sign a contract for 2 years, and let's say at the very beginning they purchased 100 units, right? Or let's say they purchased 5 units. But then a year later, their company's grown and they decide to purchase another 95 units to get up to 100. Here it's defining on this discount schedule, do you want the system to take into consideration everything that was purchased in the past, or just the things that are being purchased on the individual quote that you're working on? So here it's giving the ability to look into the past of what's happened to the past and apply that logic in how we're calculating pricing. Here you can define the very opposite to the excluded price book. Here is where you can find a very specific price book where this only works in. Quote line quantity field. So here we can actually change the number field that this discount schedule is looking at to then define what tier you fall into. So we've always said that you would define it based off of this field called the quantity field, but perhaps they're not purchasing the quantity of something. It's a custom field that you've created. So here you can define that field to be the field that the system looks at to really figure out what tier you fall into. But for now, we're going to leave this at quantity.
Do you have any term discount schedules up there?
I don't think so.
Okay, so one thing to highlight just really quick on the quantity field, if you're building a term discount, because there is a completely separate area in which you can apply that term discount schedule to a product. So we had our discount schedule and then we had a separate field for term discount. You do not add the term field to this. You leave it at quantity or whatever else you want, because by designating the discount schedule to that term discount schedule, the system already knows what field to look at in order to determine the term. So it's just something to keep in mind. It has confused people in the past because they said, I don't want to look at the quantity, I want to look at the subscription term on the quote.
And there are some people do that.
Yeah, and I get that question a lot actually. And so this can just stay at quantity when you do term-based discounting as well. So it just, because they're designated in 2 different places on the product, it will then determine whether what field to look at.
So next thing here is user defined. Now, this allows the user to be able to change the discount schedule. So like if you want users to be able to manipulate like this table while they are quoting, this allows you, this checkbox makes it available for sales representatives to actually change the tiers that you could fall into and that the price that they're actually going to be sold at. We're going to leave it as blank for right now though. The advanced settings, I don't think we need to really go over these as they're more for advanced use cases. But as you can see here, you can do a little bit of investigation on your own to figure out what these specific things do. The override behavior really is how a user would override and manually manipulate their discount schedule associated to it. So we'll go back to this once we're on the quote line editor, and you can see how a discount schedule is shown to a user. So let's go ahead and hit save. All right, so now this pops us into a new page that was created by the system. And this allows us to now define our tiers. So we can go back to our PowerPoint to see our tiers, right? And we have from 1 to 5, we have a $100 price. From 6 to 20, we have a $90 price. And then from 21 greater, we have an $80 price. So what I'm going to do here, I made it as a discount percentage. I didn't do it as a price.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think that's fine. So tier name, I'm just going to call this I'll call it tier 1. My lower bound, 1. Upper bound, We would think so. So intuitively, you would think 5 is the number we would put in here. But the way the system was designed is actually we need to put 6 in here. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the lower bound is the inclusive value.
The upper bound is the exclusive.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's greater than or equal to the lower bound, and it's just less than the upper bound.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I have seen in other projects, for example, 100 and the sample plus in the upper one. What's the difference?
so it should never be assigned 100 plus in the upper bound. The tier name may be 100 plus, but the upper bound, if you want infinity, you can leave the upper or lower bound blank, and it will essentially go into infinity.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Z.
No, you're good. So anyone want to take a guess on what we'll put down as a discount for our first tier? 0. Yeah, great. Just want to make sure everyone's following along. I think everyone is. So tier number 2, right? And this is going to be inclusive or exclusive? Inclusive, right? And then what did we have here? Was it 20? 21. And yep, I hear people talking about it, 10% discount. Yep. And a tier 2 or tier 3. And here we're going to do 21 to infinity, right? And we'll add a 20% discount. And then you would hit save, and it's going to pop us back out to the discount schedule page. So as you can see here, right, we've defined our discount schedule. And then we've also defined our discount tiers associated to them. So to our discount unit, we set this as %, but it could be amount or it could be price, right? So we set a percentage discount that we wanted to give, but we could also give an actual dollar amount discount that we wanted instead of a percentage, right? So what I could have done here is put a $10 discount instead of a 10% discount, and a $20 discount instead of a 20% discount, right? Usually we see percentage, it's a little bit easier to work off of because it's more agnostic, product agnostic, right? Versus if you have a dollar amount, it is really reflective off of that list price for that specific product you're working off of.
Yeah, and anytime, if it's an amount or if you set the price here as well, anytime you change list price on those, you would have to essentially come in here and adjust the amount or the pricing values for these. And so we want to touch it as least as possible to where a standard 10 and 20% is a generally good practice just because this can be used across products, but it can also be if I change my price from 100 a month, maybe to 200 a month because I need to increase revenue and the product is very popular, then I can do so, but still leave these as percentages in order to make sure that it scales to, oh, now you'll get $20 off instead of the $10 off.
And also think about it in terms of multiple currencies as well. When you're using percentage, that percentage can flow through those different currencies a lot easier than actual hard dollar amounts, right? So $10 in a different currency, you're gonna have to reset those every single time you change. And that becomes a really big administrative job to do. So we always encourage customers when they're thinking about redesigning their pricing structures on how to best use the system that meets their needs, as well as helps them with administrative aspects on the back end. All right, so we've created our discount schedule. I want everyone to go ahead and copy the name of our discount schedule. Or no, don't go ahead and copy it. Let's do it I'm doing shortcuts here. So go back up to your product and let's go to our basic OS. And now we've created a discount schedule that we can assign in our pricing field, discount schedule. So as you can see here, there are 2 discount schedule fields. And note that we're working with one object, discount schedule. But depending on where you assign that discount schedule here, it's going to take into consideration what Justin was saying, if you're looking at your quantity or if you're looking at your turn. And again, our requirement said that this is a quantity-based discount schedule, so we're going to go ahead and select that here. As you can see, our one discount schedule that we have is added. And then hit save. All right. And the last product that we're going to set up is Advanced GPS Maps, $10 monthly subscription per user license. All right. So let's go ahead and so it'll be a new product. I just copied and pasted the name, but again, it's Advanced GPS/Maps. We're going to make it active. We're going to leave all the other fields alone up here. Scroll down. We're going to skip our Salesforce CPQ configuration again. And we're
Sorry.
There you go. That's what happens if you select it. It happens very frequently.
And then we're going to use the standard price. All right, so we've gone ahead and configured all of these products. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and try to create a quote. And I want everyone to see what these products look like, what the products look like that we've just created, before we actually kind of let you on your own and start creating some products on your own. So let's go ahead and create an account. Or why don't we use, well, let's create an account because not everyone has the account that we created yesterday with the leads, right? So everyone go and create a new account. And let's call this account Trucking 101. And right now, I'm not going to define any of my Salesforce CPQ information here. We'll get to some of these settings as we begin to build a little bit more. But remember, on your account, there are some settings that can be set here. Usually these settings are not set by a user who is creating an account. They're automated settings that get built based off of the requirements of a business, okay? So we've created an account. Let's go into our opportunity and create a new one. Sorry, let's create a new opportunity. I'm going to call this new deal. Let's just call this new deal number 1 in case we're creating multiple new deals. Let's give it a close date of the end of the month or the beginning of next year. And let's give it the stage of prospecting and hit save. January 1st. All right, so now that we've created our opportunity, the next thing we're going to do is create our quote. So again, I'm going to reiterate this. This is us diving into Salesforce CPQ, from moving away from Sales Cloud and going into CPQ by working with the quote object. So again, the fields that we said were going to be the important fields that we need to fill out. We have primary. As you can see here, the fields are in a little bit different order than they were in the original demo. But again, what were they? Can anyone repeat? We have primary, the 3 fields that are the critical fields for quotes. The start date. What was the last one? What about time? All right, so start date. And I'm actually not going to give this a subscription term. I want everyone to kind of see what the system does to actually price things if you forget to add a subscription term, because the system's not going to kick out an error saying, hey, you didn't put in a subscription term. Things just won't work for you, and you need to figure that out.
Why those fields are not?
There's no validation.
They're required. Yeah.
So one thing that I didn't cover here on the quote is that there are different types of quotes, and these deal with the type of quote that you're working in, right? Are you selling a net new deal? Are you creating an amendment? Or are you actually creating a renewal, or are you working off of a renewal? Based off of the type of quote you're working in, the subscription term may or may not be filled out. So on amendments, your subscription term doesn't, it's not that it doesn't exist, it's not filled out because it works off of the end date associated to the quote. So it's not a required field, but we just know through experience that if you don't have a subscription term, your opportunity doesn't sync to your quote.
And you could build fairly complex validation rules around that. You would have to look at different fields to say, if this is checked, then make sure that they have this assigned and this assigned, but also if they set an end date, then they technically don't need a subscription term. So you get into a very complex scenario where you end up building out a lot of if and then statements within a validation rule, which is just, it may be different for a client-to-client basis. So you just want to stay away from it. And so that's why they don't mark these as required built in that validation.
I think there's even a more critical thing as to why it's not a validation rule here at the quote. So if you go back to the reasoning around the way Salesforce CPQ evaluates things, and I talk about that 3 tiers, right? It looks at the quote line first and defines, is there a definition for this at the quote line? If not, it's going to look at the quote line group. And if there's a definition for it at the quote line group, then it will take that. But if there's not one at the quote line group, it'll then look at the quote. So what we're seeing here, right, is the actual 3rd tier. So we could actually define subscription terms for each individual quote line, and that would then subsequently work. So we actually don't need to define a subscription term here at the quote, right? But this is a way for us to define the subscription term at the quote without having to go to each individual product and define it. So here I'm going to leave it blank just to show everyone that the system will calculate pricing for you, and it gives you a generic subscription term that it uses. So here it's kicking us out into the Visualforce page that's provided by the CPQ package. And the first thing that we're going to be prompted with is, which price book do we want to work off of? We have Driver Deluxe and we have our standard. So we're going to go ahead and select Driver Deluxe. And as you can see here, I don't actually have my quote fields shown here, right? The demo that you had seen had some quote fields shown at the very top. The subscription term, the start date, right? We can go ahead and make those additions just to start populating some data, but we'll skip that for right now. We really just want to show you how your products are being shown in the configurator. So let's go ahead and add products.
We're in the Driver Deluxe price book.
Yeah. And as you can see here, your products are shown. And I hope that everyone has gotten to this stage where all their products are being shown in this screen. If not, why don't you call Austin or Justin over and they'll help you kind of get to that stage. But one of the main things is maybe your product wasn't active. That's why it's not being shown. Maybe you didn't give it a Driver Deluxe price book entry. That could be another reason why it's not being shown. But if you can see here, the extended warranty, it's a percentage of total. We talked about why we would give it a $0 price versus an actual price. You can see here the price is shown to a user. We don't want to confuse them when they're trying to sell a product, because we don't know what products are being added to a quote at this point in time. So there's no calculation as to what your percentage of total is. So one thing to note here is that we've defined some of these products, but we haven't defined anything that says this product has to be sold with this other product, right? We haven't created any of our bundle structure. So right now it's actually very similar to the product selection we showed you yesterday from the opportunity, right? We've added some complexity around a contract term, right? How pricing needs to change based off of that, but we still don't have the, product A is linked with product B. And we'll get into that here in the next step. So let's just go ahead and add just a couple of these products.
You gotta go.
You want to get back to
All right, so everyone, we're all going to have to do this step, and it's initializing the calculator, and it's a package level setting that always has to be done at the very beginning, and we forgot. So everyone, please go to Setup at the very top.
You could open it up in a new tab as well.
Yeah.
If you needed to.
So let's go ahead and open it up in a new tab. I didn't do it.
And tabs are key in Salesforce because you will be bouncing between different screens often.
And then here, install package.
Don't press enter after you type in text.
You'll do that.
And to be honest, actually, do we give ourselves licenses? We're just an admin, which is why we can access the objects.
Yeah, which is fine. That's fine.
So everyone go into configure. So I clicked on the middle one, configure. And what this is going to take us to is not Visualforce screen, but a screen that allows us to make some changes to certain settings at a package level. We were trying to avoid these because it just adds some more kind of complexity here, but you'll note that usually when you install the package, there are a couple of basic things you need to do. And the first one we need to do is go into pricing in the calculation tab. And we need to authorize our new calculation service. So just basically clicking on it. Need to allow.
Surprised they can't automate.
Awesome. And maybe you want to talk about the calculator, not like getting the detail, but like what are we giving permission to here?
Sure. So right now what it's doing, the pricing calculation service lives on a Heroku, it's a Heroku web service that's called out. So behind the scenes, all this stuff is built in JavaScript on Node. And so what we're doing is we're giving access to that server for our user account. So it's using OAuth 2, and it's generating a refresh token and an access token so that it can make those API calls out to their server. And so that server has access to call back into Salesforce because there's a lot of bi-directional communication that's happening. And if we have time, there's a price calculator plugin where you can write JavaScript, and during the price calculation sequence, it will call these methods that you can define, and it will give you the quote model and then the quote line model so that you can write a lot more custom logic if the out-of-the-box functionality for anything related to pricing or just setting any attribute on any quote line. You can have control and write some code to handle that. So that those are use cases that might get passed over to your team because they're pretty small in scope. They're good first opportunity learning experiences on working with the data. So we get those on occasion. I try to avoid those unless we have to, just because once you start that, like 100 lines of code turns into 1,000 lines of code, and it just gets really complex over time.
All right, and if you notice, the moment where we received our error was the moment that SteelBrick was trying to call on that calculation sequence externally and actually calculate pricing for our products, right? Because we were showing products here on our configurator, and you saw 110, 100, and 0, right? That's our list price. So the system doesn't actually have to do a calculation. But when we then try to put in a term, right, or a quantity, or we have a % of total product, there is a calculating sequence that happens in the background. And it's a 34-step calculation sequence that occurs. And we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty detail here this afternoon around it. But it's making that call at the moment of adding my products from my configurator to my quote line editor. That is the initialization of that calculation, okay? So it's me hitting select here. Oh, whoops, I didn't select any products. Let's just go ahead and select all of them.
And if you exited outside of the quote line editor, you can open up the quote record and hit the edit lines button at the top.
Yeah, everyone. So like what Austin was saying, if you moved away from the quote line editor and you want to go back into it, you have your sidebar here, and your sidebar will probably have your quote, and it's probably 0000. And if you go in here, there's a button called Edit Lines. This is the way to get into your quote line editor. And let's go ahead and add those products. Select. All right. And we have some basic pricing. I want everyone to note, right, we had a subscription term of null, right? We didn't input anything there, but we still get the system's calculating a price for us, right? The default, what it's going to use is 1 year, a subscription term of 12. So it will be a little confusing because your pricing is going to calculate, but you know that you're not going to get a good sync.
They use 1 year.
Subscription term of 1?
Yeah, because your monthly pricing showed up as 10. And showed up as 100.
The advanced GPS monitoring? Yeah, it did, didn't it?
Yeah, so everything is in one. It was defaulting. They may have changed it in the recent managed package to default the subscription terms of 1, which is very odd. But these things are the sort of things that change from upgrade to upgrade to upgrade. So it defaulted us to a term of 1 because we can tell, because some of our monthly pricing that we normally get, so our basic OS and our advanced GPS aren't multiplied by 12, and those are monthly pricing.
Yeah, I think the main point of this here, though, is that the system is going to calculate a price even though you don't have a subscription term set. But don't get confused. You always need to have a subscription term set, whether it be at the quote line group, or the quote level. Okay? So if everyone, oh, yes. And then the thing is here, so if you notice, we gave one product a discount schedule. Here, there's an icon showing up for one product. And that's the discount schedule that shows. So it's showing the user what tier they might fall into based off of the product. And
You can click.
is it click? Oh, yeah. Okay. So if I would have made this editable, a user could perhaps go in here and actually make changes to these things. Right? When I was talking about is it editable or not and how they may be able to interact with it, there are some settings we can do to say, okay, they want to interact with it, but they can only change the bounds. They can't change the pricing, those types of things, right? So if everyone has been able to get to this place, what we want to do here is kind of cut you guys off on your own to be able to create a few more of the products before we let everyone loose for lunch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have everyone build the use cases on the next slide. And then when you're done, get to this page and add those products to this quote. And why don't you call on us and we'll come over here and check and make sure you've done it. And then you can go off to lunch. That sound good?
And they should be in that exercise document that we sent you yesterday. We'll display it up here as well. We also have to build these inside of the org so that we follow along, but we'll probably build them on this screen so that you guys
Why don't we have,
can.
like, Austin or you, do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to do it, just I'll hold out. If there's
So-
any questions.
See, some people have a trial org, and the REST API is not enabled in the trial org.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I have to change. Sorry, I have to change. Yeah, because there was
Yeah.
another problem.
So you can't
get
enable
people
it?
spun up on whoever's on
Yeah,
the
so I
trial.
think, so I can see that up here shows that you're on a trial org. So that org's a little bit different. So the REST API seems to
How
be
to
disabled.
go to
It's based on your like user license. It doesn't come with professional edition, I think.
That's because they register as an organization instead of a developer.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
type of org when you define it, I don't think we told them to do developer. They might have just done.
I think
Sales.
yeah, so if they went to salesforce.com and click try or something.
Yeah. Then
yeah.
there's a-
Yeah, so you have to go to developer.salesforce.com and spin up an org, or the Trailhead org should be the developer org.
Yeah, Trailhead should be.
So, yeah, the main issue is we're gonna have to like install the package, set all the page layouts. There's a little bit of work. But let's go ahead and get your org created. So it's developer.salesforce.com.
Are they the only ones, Austin, or did you notice anyone else? Is everyone else doing okay with the authentication of the calculator? Did anyone else run into issues?
Yes,
Everyone good? Okay.
and that's my representative here. My sales
Do you mind
man.
if I use your machine to do the configuration? All right.
Oh, yeah, because you can do it off.
Yeah, I'll
Sure.
Where is it?
So we're incentivizing everyone to learn quicker, right? So we can go to lunch faster. Sorry, Austin.
And this is probably one of the longest parts of the actual build on your own.
Great, then you're gonna type in your information here. Then put your regular email address here. Has to be
So when you were creating your discount tiers, we were doing that. Yeah.
Ahora está bien, pero en el momento en el que nos encontramos era como que prendí el aire ahora. Ahora estamos todos.
Can I change the currency of the price? Because I have it.
So go into your user profile. You might not be able to change it right now for this opportunity. So every record that you have gets defined a currency. You might have to create a new opportunity after we make the changes. So are you able to change
Yeah, change that to like training.
So my profile. My site.
It's arbitrary.
Personal.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a real.
Time zone.
Well, I think it's in format, so it doesn't have to be real.
Go to setup.
But you probably want to copy.
And then go to manage.
Yes, you get signed up now.
On the left side. Very solid.
Just your email.
And then users. See that?
But it's gonna be the email you typed above, not the username.
And then
So it'll be your actual.
What do you want the pricing to be? Do you want pricing here?
no, I didn't actually demo block prices. That will help them out.
Oh, okay. I was like, I didn't know if you wanted to switch over to.
No, let's leave it at that. Let's see how everyone kind of discovered something.
Bring it to among the plan for supporting the GIT.
Okay, so let's go back.
Every 10 days and after.
You know, I think, so there was a currency.
Okay, but that is not looking good. Okay, so send the files and have and see if I can make it the setup of the environment.
Okay, so you can load that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that's what I think the plan needs to be, is it's not easy to run every single time.
Exactly. That's the idea. The setup there.
So everyone, please note that this right here, right, it's not discount schedule.
Okay.
Remember, we're using the
Yeah,
word
'cause
block pricing here.
I don't want
So I'm expecting a lot of people that raise their
hand
hand to get to this one,
somebody else needs to be.
to ask maybe how we do that, because we haven't talked too much about it. We're hoping folks might be able to discover it.
I'm going to spend some time now setting up the environment.
All right.
Hiccups.
Yeah, but I just use the clone.
The clone?
Yeah, because you can clone like, because these are similar products, so you could just clone your product.
Okay, so is there an announcement?
I know.
Okay.
Also, really quick, I did want to just also say, Salesforce tries to do like breadcrumbs. They're not very good at them. So you can see here that the last screen that I was on that registered is the installed package, even though I've been navigating across multiple screens. So it's you'll see this across, if I open up multiple tabs and I've accessed the installed package or some other object, even though I may be on price roll, it may link me all the way back to products or anything. And so just be careful if you're going to use the breadcrumbs.
It's a tough feature.
For right now,
I know it by first hand.
First thing you have to do is install the managed package, and that takes some time. So you might have to work with your neighbor, but let's get that package started.
Yeah, so this is called under.
Another thing that I talked with Antonio to tell Joseph, I think that my original plan, I think that you and I talked is, we should be getting the best out of here, this course, this training session.
Yeah.
So to wait until we are next tomorrow or Friday to get the final candidates.
Okay. Yeah.
And then work with Neil. He's not going to be able to come into Devon, but to do some coaching or presentation if needed.
Yeah, just understanding their current environment different, or it's not necessarily coaching up on Apex development, it's more
No.
just understanding what is the left.
Yeah, and what he was doing,
Yeah.
what is left.
Yeah, exactly.
Just want to start closing some topics.
I'm not sure. Justin, how did we spread the link out for the managed package?
It's in the slide deck that was sent out yesterday.
It's like that.
And it also has all of the exercises.
Nope.
No, it's not
So this is block pricing, so it's
Let me send you guys.
So look at the related lists associated to your product. You'll see something that's called block pricing. Okay.
and so essentially block pricing will say if I order a certain amount within a block, it will just assign that price, whether it's 40 or 50, it will just assign that price.
So when we made the
It's print zero for the price.
For this one, block pricing? Yeah.
200.
You can just, no, just a zero.
You can do zero. You could do up to 100.
It's similar to percent of total.
Yeah.
Just like the discount schedule, except it's.
But I'm just saying like it's
Set up.
is if you change your block pricing, right? If you recalculate a quote, it's going to recalculate.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we were last year, but they have like future data, price changes, right? And they have like, if you build a quote, that price has to be static on that quote for 30 days until the quote expires. So like, that's fine. You thought, okay, you could use that quote.
That might take.
The quote, you can have like refresh pricing. That's when it pulls in this pricing. And we thought that's
That
part
could take
of
us
the law.
10 minutes or more.
So if you made a change on block, every quote that was
And a
adjusted,
little bit of work to do after
change
that.
price with the new price. Whenever you interact with it.
Right. Price roll, when something needs to be used or not, stamp the value from whatever it is, net price or whatever, into a different field. And then at the end of the calculations, you can also stamp that value anywhere.
Yes,
But if
You're using price rules and then move everything into a.
yeah.
What we're trying to do is keep everything at like the configuration level. Not the calculation. It's in the calculation, so it's called price quote, you have to have a quote. But if you're trying to do e-commerce, you don't necessarily want it.
Yeah, gotcha.
And don't feel shy asking questions, everybody. We're here to help. You know, we've all gone through this before, and we know that it can be a little confusing sometimes.
You guys get back here?
Yeah.
You got any questions?
Yep.
Yes, you chose block, so they're gonna save and add price.
Yeah, si no lo pones en Driver Deluxe, no te va.
Section 0.
And if you have many price books, you have to create one many block price
I
records.
knew it for every.
Yeah, it becomes kind of tedious.
And then let's add other price. Go back.
Grade 1, grade 2.
Yeah, tier 1, tier 2, yeah. Yep.
Okay, then after that, we'll have
Something
to
block price.
Yeah.
Block price.
You'll go see under the related list
Which
sections,
does,
just section, block price, so we scroll down.
Bro,
List, block. So the benefit of adding a record here, instead of putting the block.
so here you actually, if you think about it as remember we gave each tier a name. We call it tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Or you can say 1 to 5, right? That. So here you're creating each one automatically. So essentially the record OS, Pro OS 1 to 5.
You create what you have block pricing you have and create one, you have to say what your product is doing. So it'll have that relationship for you.
Yeah, and then we don't want to say
So,
Exactly, yeah, you could do that.
this is just like this here. I'll let you guys figure it out.
The lower, on the second one, lower down. The first one would be the lower bound 1. Six. Okay, so inclusive.
You good? Price will be. No, I think you're in the wrong.
Yeah, so the price book is price book.
Yeah, I was wondering, like,
So there's two things that you have to do. So you're gonna want to delete that. Go to your. It's probably over here in your recent items. Oh, it's not?
no, I can.
Yeah. Go to products and find it. So there's two things we need to do. Add the number one and two, and then down here we have block price. So these are just like here. One block price record first year. It should be straightforward.
No te quería un
Yeah, we're gonna save and add price. So first, we're just gonna add our list price, and then we're gonna add our other price book, and then I'll show you where to add the block price. Because it's not a discount schedule, it's a little bit different. So, yeah, so just put 0 here. And then let's go do, very bottom.
The upper bound? Oh, the upper bound is required. Oh, it's not giving you, why you do infinite?
No, you can do it.
Okay, yeah.
Your lower bound.
All right, so now the second part that we need to do, if we scroll down. So we said that our pricing is locked. Now we scroll down. Okay, so this record needs this, and this is just like here, so you'll create multiple of these. So.
I'll poner el 21.
Yep, the same structure that we did, 1 to 6. And then, yeah, 6 to 21.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
It was a lower issue. Inclusive. Like how I threw that in there.
Yeah,
This is how
yeah,
we get it always.
yeah.
What's a viewer?
Huh?
What a viewer?
User?
You were. That's, I think, one of the mistakes that.
Josh Ortiz.
Josh called out.
You probably just did.
I can't believe he made it this line 36.
I think he made it all in there. He would touch every single slide.
Should have had him review.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Block pricing. So este está diciendo si compras 1, 2, 3 o 4, siempre el precio va a ser 200.
Para 4, para 5.
Sí. Y si compras 19 o compras 8, va a ser 150. So how about you? Did you end up having to create a new opportunity to change the currency? Or did it change it on? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, no, okay. I was curious for myself.
So you've got that. So we have to bundle it. Bundles, exercise 1, exercise 2. Okay, perfect. That should be pretty quick. This is the one.
This is the one. Set your base. And look at the pyramid.
Although renewals could just.
Amendments.
Subscription per user.
It's a quantity.
It's a quantity, so you buy a certain number of licenses, and each license is designated to.
Oh, that's just a standalone product.
Yeah,
So this should be.
And we define like software power.
Well, so this is the actually percentage of total. So this guy is not a piece of hardware, so you wouldn't have to define anything there. The percent of total pays. So anything that's dealing with percent of total, you're not gonna need to fill out here. But your subscription pricing is a field that you will fill out. Down a little. Subscription
Eso
pricing.
le puedo mostrar, César. Le puedo mostrar lo que quiero hacer.
Oh, you're just on it. Subscripciones there in the section. And then fixed price. No, no tiene que ser percent of total, tiene que ser fixed price. Yes, sir, yep. You guys are all done?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here, we have the 14. I know that you have it on a quote once, you're obviously able to have it.
Yeah, that's how I generally test it. Out, to make sure it's like I said, easy to block pricing. We'll go over that really quick. Everybody can know the lunch. Hopefully it's
How much is
not
your
taking
price on?
So we look at the total, base, that'd be none.
Or are you talking about 14-inch monitor?
No, it's systems monitoring from.
Doesn't have anything to do with percentage. of
Yeah, so
total.
you leave it blank.
All right, so 14-inch touchscreen, one-time turn on. So why don't you change the quantity to 2? Yep.
Yeah, so go,
All right, so why don't you put the quantity to,
just go up.
Yep.
You can use the same account for new opportunity.
And then,
Create a brand new
quit that, 1250, all right, and then systems monitoring. And what's your,
And then the price 100.
okay, so hit save here.
So
I don't know, I understand.
the other one was monthly, that one subscription months, I think, I don't remember exactly the field. The options and every question.
Yeah, so let's put the subscription term and make it 24. And then scroll down to your quote lines.
Awesome. You know what? The original, right?
Yeah, there's a calculation.
No, you build block pricing. You can build a tier.
200?
Yeah.
Perfecto. Nice job.
So like if we come and maybe
I don't think, I'm pretty sure I don't know.
okay.
Did you, when you created the hardware, did you make it a part of your percentage total category?
For this one,
Yeah, so if you have the percent of total product, will it pick up the
we
14-inch?
didn't pick the hardware for this.
Okay, let's go ahead and, so the right there is the 14-inch.
Yeah, because we didn't capture a discount, that's why we didn't. What was it?
The percent of total category,
So like C
mark
right
that as
here.
hardware. So that way you have that percent of total product, so look at this one and the other one. Look at the 10-inch
Prices. That
Yeah.
block, I think, whatever the original block price. This adds block price to the original block price.
That is going to take the percentage but not of all the hardware, but some specific hardware.
This seems unusual, why would it change?
Well, that only allows you to select.
I don't know that it's.
What you can do though is you can
The
add
reason why this related to this here
and then you just match stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck with just hardware and
It's
software.
like within your product itself, everything would appear like this, but it's,
Quite as in.
yeah, that's, I don't.
No, so
understand.
there we go.
Go to snapshot. Community side,
Percent of total is
That's what I would do.
Yeah, to me. it
Oh,
doesn't
you're
make
on the
sense.
14, you're on the hardware, okay. See, perfecto. Oh, the block pricing?
So none of these are.
No, there's only 1%. Man.
Okay. Whether or not
And you have to
block
make
pricing
sure
is
to set 14-inch to hardware.
It's a block there, si vas más para abajo.
applies to the extended warranty. If we're checking their work, we should
1 to 6. Creo que el segundo.
confirm what are the, we should look at, just make sure these.
Yeah.
Especially on prices.
No.
Because again, block pricing and stuff like that.
The other one, you could check it yearly versus monthly.
Sí, creo que sí.
And either way, we should release.
Oh, yeah, estamos viendo.
And community still running,
Okay.
even though it's a steel ring.
What's your search for the label or just
Yeah.
try the label?
Yeah.
Yep.
A ver, ponelo en un juego. A ver, mostrame los precios cuando están en un juego. Y puedes, si quieres, usar el juego, ya, el 000. Sí, no tenés que hacer uno nuevo.
No, it doesn't.
And edit lines. Y agregar los productos que creí. Oh, the system monitoring, yeah, alguno más que tenés que hacer. Let's check these and make sure they're working. So so the 14-inch touchscreen monitor, agregarle una cantidad de 2. Click on calculate. And then your net price went to 300. Good. And why don't you do 50? 50. Calculate. And 1250. Okay. Good. Then you create the last one, and you'll be good. Y con el 14-inch touchscreen monitor, did you guys do the percent of total category field so that your percent of total will look at that one? Okay, so yeah, go back and add hardware as your percent of total category.
Yes, I am testing this.
Right, so that
See, you know
is,
what? The point of the original block pricing
okay.
within block.
You have to select like change the quantity and that should all
I
work.
looked at communities.
Yes,
and stuff.
I want
There's
to
a bunch
change
of the advanced stuff. I don't know what that stuff is, like the original quote and stuff.
terms.
Okay, the terms, yeah, so go ahead
So
and,
it's like-
you're probably gonna say no. So let's say
We'll still-
the database.
Based on pricing in each block pricing here, essentially. I mean, it's not goes to the product.
Yeah.
Then where the only thing that changes is
But
that
if I change
original block
these,
pricing.
do you
is
see?
populated with block pricing.
The expired time is different
And on all it says,
There's another prescription date somewhere.
is the original pricing that is used.
No, sí, además.
And then let's go make sure that.
No, it sounds like I think that was like.
Ahora lo vamos a conseguir con
For some reason.
You said it's percent of
Sí.
total.
No sé.
Maybe that's something to do with like time-based block pricing. and stuff.
No sé qué tenía.
Right,
no tenía.
I just thought I doing that for a last year.
Yeah.
No sé, después te confirmo.
These are all now. Okay. If you scroll down. All right, so if you hold down, if you open it in a new tab, it open up this product. So clicking on that, and then let's go find our inside.
Or you can create, just add to the quote that we already created earlier. Okay.
So that should be good. So let's
Or do you
go
guys
back
feel like
to
you've
the
done all the, you've added all the products? You want me to review
quote
it?
and edit lines.
So here, you can click on the 000. And then you edit lines.
Yes, we can go add it.
Sorry, what is that? All right, so let's add your products. Why don't you add the 3 products that you created?
So warranty, yeah, Sean.
Okay, that's. Here, that should be.
Sí, siempre hay cosas distintas que detalles.
Okay, so, all right, let's come back in here. And then go,
Refresh.
so let's go with your subscription term here. So
Maybe
that's, well, so that looks right, clearly, oh, subscription pricing.
Y poner un
Let's try
cantidad
to
de
set that
dos,
to,
the 14-inch monitor, un cantidad de 50 en Pro OS.
so that fixed price, and then this one is on a total, we can uncheck that, we can put that in there.
Qué lento.
Yeah.
Sí, aquí un cantidad de dos.
And then let's say,
Y 50.
okay, and then you come to this page and just refresh, actually, click save,
All right, so it is dos, 50.
and now refresh your page.
Eso está pasando. All right. A ver, let's go to the Pro
And then
OS.
it's like calculate, and see.
If you just set values on the product, you have to re-add the product to your quote because the twin fields come across during creation of the product.
Okay,
So it doesn't say something.
Hopefully that's our issue, otherwise I'm gonna need some extra.
So you notice that when you actually never hit
Might be
save, so it never actually saved to the database. It was only on your browser.
Yeah, it's,
We didn't have the, subscription pricing method, or whatever it's called.
subscription pricing.
It was just, you can skip that
Okay,
one.
great.
You already saw
Okay,
it.
this is really working.
All right, and then hit
Yeah,
save.
so if we try that. 30.
Yeah, no, open it with
So
subscription
block
term.
is, block is just like range, except instead of a discount, it's just saying, this is your
Let's
listing.
say,
It's all right.
and then once it reloads, we're gonna have to wait 1 second. And then that's what you have to auto reload.
So you should see that one, and then,
Va a parar, ahora vas a clicar y después te vas a usar.
Warranty.
Y ahora vamos a poder ver los precios de 60 monitoring, y 100 para un año y para 2 años son 200. Perfecto. All right. Nice job. Yeah? You want to take what?
do you have any questions about the
I don't remember all the options that.
Can you go back a couple of slides?
Oh, to the,
The page layout slide. Should be account, opportunity,
Only,
product,
right there.
product, account, opportunity, order, contract. You have to put
Order,
order on.
I wouldn't worry about ordering. I mean, you could if it's in there. You might as well set it.
Question, did you add a hardware category for your percentage total? So on the, Justin, do you mind going back to the use case?
Yeah.
Oh, you're just.
I'm setting up the order.
The product is really all you are working with right now.
Yeah,
For the page layout.
yeah, he's just setting them
All right,
first.
so let's go. So let's go to the hardware, right? Because we have that percentage total product for all our hardware. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead and
Yeah.
set.
Okay. Makes sense.
And so you can figure out what it defaults to.
Just the subscription term of the product.
That's okay, let's go ahead and check
So
that.
it's a subscription
Yeah,
term.
so all we're doing here is we're just saying that when we go to our deadline,
Makes more sense.
we'll show
Yeah.
up stuff as your face selected. Okay, so
Yeah, no,
now
of course, go ahead.
we scroll
Yeah.
down.
After you guys finish up, feel free
This
to.
pricing method,
Yeah, si terminaron,
we need to
Go to
change
lunch.
this to block.
Just jump.
all right, let's see it.
Okay, to block. Yep, so it's just like range that we had before, except this time we're not giving a discount. All we're saying is that we want the price.
Oh, es
Yeah,
bueno,
the net price. So let's go ahead and say,
ponimos en el código.
and then,
La cosa
and then we
que
have to add some
Austin was saying, cuando pones unos products in un quote, pero no, you don't actually save it, right? Lo que hace is, those products are only on your browser. ¿Qué hacen? So if you don't actually hit save, the records never get created.
And then we need to create
So
three.
what happened was you
prices.
never hit
These
save,
are the
so when you
tiers.
moved away from the browser screen. Yeah. So we'll show you, say,
Yeah,
you see the records.
Oh,
see, you have it right there.
Over here, not on the link, but next to the.
All right.
Okay, double click. And hit backspace. And then save. So that'll remove, so that still exists. Yeah, we didn't delete it. All we did is say, no, it's out there, but now it's not related to our stuff. So it's, you probably want to delete it, but don't worry about it. So we hit save. And then you'll go to the block prices. And you'll add 3 records. So these are like the 2. They don't have the parent.
Puedes agregar el
the-
mismo producto lo de
tiers, essentially.
No, es el Pro. El Pro. El 14-inch touchscreen pone cantidad de 2.
Okay.
Y en el Pro pone cantidad de 50. Y eso era un calculate. Se puede, pero te quiero ver como el subscription term lo cambia. Si save te sale ahí. No, está bien. Eso es porque yo cambié el mío. Dice save and exit. Porque
Did you authorize the calculator?
no,
service?
it's okay.
Did you authorize the calculator service? So open 7 in a new tab. And then
Okay.
install packages.
All right, so it looks like the Pro OS is doing just fine. Right here, your 50, and it goes into the 50, and then the 2, you're having 150, the 3, fine. And then systems monitoring, hit save.
Okay. Let's go ahead and click on
Y
this.
cambiamos el subscription term del corporate, a ver cómo cambia el precio. A ver, a poner 24. No, el subscription term.
Okay, now you can come back.
Sí,
24 meses. ¿Siguen? Yeah, that's good. That's good, right?
Ujú.
Thank you.
Y vas a ver, cuando haces el save, va a hacer un refresh. Y después va a hacer un calculation. Dice que tiene un recalculate, y después va a hacer otro refresh. Y ahora podemos ver los precios en full lines.
Is there a display problem?
Oh, no tiene que ir ahí. Si lo vamos ahí, a ver, tienes 200. 100 multiplicado por 2 años. Perfecto. Good to go, guys. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to the product. Let's see. Right. And let's go to pricing. Okay, so block is set, that's good. And you have the price book, so what is it?
He decided to ask me for the password, so now.
Okay, let's go check, did you attach the price book? And then you have the price book.
There it
Okay.
goes.
Let's go back up. Say no block. Poner un subscription price. Porque no hay one Pone un subscription term también. Can you go back up to the use cases, Austin or Justin?
Yeah, I can. You want the use cases?
Not the use cases, sorry.
The exercises?
Yeah, the exercises. Monthly. That's what it says. Hacer un quick save. Quizás tenés que eliminar el producto y ponerlo otra vez. Bueno, todo, solo ese. No, puedes add products si quieres.
Okay.
Porque tres van a estar ahí otra vez. Porque no hiciste el save.
No, I like it.
Hay precio ahora. Calcular. Alright. A ver, poner un 2 en el 14-inch touchscreen. Calcular. Alright. Y ahora hit save. Cambiar el subscription term. Poner 24.
Yeah.
I can turn off, right?
Yeah.
Term. Okay. Y después vamos abajo al related list.